Hi everyone, it's Roger and Jeremy here from What's On at Disney Plus podcast, and in this episode we're going to be talking about Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Now, this film was picked by our Patreon and YouTube channel members for us to watch, and if you become a member, you get to pick which ones to do through like a voting system. And if you're at a certain level as well, you can also recommend movies that we watch as well. And they do get access to these a little bit earlier as a little perk of being a member. Now, let's jump into this. So, 20th Century Studios' Rise of the Silver Surfer, which is the Fantastic Four movie. I'm gonna see. I watched this one again, and I have probably only recently. I think it was on like Channel 4 or something recently, and I ended up. When you change the channel and it's like on, and you suddenly sit there for 20 minutes later, and I recently, I think, watched Fantastic Four. And it was like, okay, this wasn't as bad as I remembered it. It was fine. And I watched this one and going, wow, no wonder this tanked the Fantastic Four franchise for a while, because it's a bit rough in it.
Yeah, it's better than the reboot. It's better than the reboot. Can give it that.
Yeah, it's the second. Yeah. It's the second best Fantastic Four movie there is. That's...
Oh, is that one that was never released? Then that might be better than this. So who knows? It was a typical sequel to a average average origin story. So it was a typical sequel, and sequels usually have diminishing returns, except for in the MCU apparently.
Yeah. And this is the situation where I think the MCU has completely just spoiled us to the point now where this kind of stuff is just completely almost like, what? No, we've moved past, the big bright light in the sky that they've all got to stop, that it's such an overused thing now. And for me, there's aspects of this movie I didn't find it too bad. I liked a little bit more of the comedy elements and feeling like, I didn't even mind them swapping powers. That whole kind of thing was a nice little kind of gimmick, all combining together, at the end. The one thing that really threw me off with this movie was why Doom was in it. Because it didn't feel like he needed to be in there at all in this movie. He just seemed to be shoehorned in, and there didn't seem to be any necessary for him to be there. You got Galactus, one of the most baddest villains in the Marvel universe. And then then Doom just nixes. So I don't know. It didn't feel like we needed him.
Did not need Doom. I agree. I think was there just because they're like, well, the comic book fans were going to know everybody, but they're trying to appeal beyond those who'd read the comics to people who just watch the movies, and they're like, well, they'll know this character if we bring him in, which I suppose you could have worked in a cameo, kind of like they did with Michael Keaton as Vulture in the Venom. I know it's a different thing, but they could have worked that in and made it and put that in the trailer and made it work. But he was there way too much for no real reason. This is the movie that led to Jessica Alba quitting acting for a while because of the backlash she got from it. And honestly, her performance isn't even bad.
It's very wooden.
It's not good. It's wooden, yes.
But I think she got given I think ultimately she got a bad script. She got a bad character. It's not necessarily on her, because I've seen her in loads of stuff before, and she's fine. But this, I think, was just along the lines of, this is just a bad script, a bad story.
Yeah.
Galactus wasn't even used properly. They kind of teased his shape. He kind of just turned up at the end and Silver Surfer ran into him. And it just, there wasn't really any threat from him. I like the whole aspect of them trying to save it, and they just felt like Doom just was a completely unnecessary side plot. They could have done with trying to build Galactus up a little bit more as the central villain. I enjoyed, it's like the whole thing with the Silver Surfer of like him instantly trying to protect Sue, and it was a bit like, well, you've not even kind of, he's like, you've instantly gone into like, okay, he's not a bad guy. They didn't even attempt to, I don't know. It's one of those movies of kind of watching it back. This was just a movie of a different era, which is why it just didn't work. It just didn't work because we'd moved past all this. Even when it came out, just looking at here. So this one came out in 2007. So we're what? When was Iron Man? 2008?
2008. Yeah, 1 year later.
We were like a year apart from the MCU launching. And we'd already had, I'm just trying to think here, had we had The Dark Knight by then?
Dark Knight was 2008 as well.
Yeah. So the Dark Knight was the exact same year, of which point you look at these two movies and they are polar opposites in terms of what they're trying to do. And I think that's the problem, is the audience has kind of moved on from this. And Fantastic Four, the first one I think was tolerable. You know, it was a generic superhero movie. It was fine. It was fun. And I don't think it was bad. I would argue that it is enjoyable. You can watch it and you can get, and kids will love it and all the rest of it. This one was just like, nah, it's just pointless. It was completely pointless. It's again, just it felt like 20th Century Studios just trying to keep hold of that license, because they knew if they didn't keep making them, they were going to lose Marvel, and they wanted the X-Men. And yeah, this was, I mean, again, even as that, like, it's just funny seeing Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, because obviously we're used to him as Captain. Like, you think Captain America was like what, like a year or two away from this, and how much that had changed.
Captain America, I believe, was 2011 when that one came out. So about 4 years away from that. This, yeah, I did. If there's one redeeming aspect of it, I do like the camaraderie between Michael Chiklis and Chris Evans. They play each other so well. They get on each other's nerves, but they still have each other's backs. That may be due to both of them are from the same part of the United States. They're both from right outside of Boston, Massachusetts. So that might play into it.
I think just generally that seemed to work. And there was a few, I thought that's quite funny, because there's a few little cheeky jokes in there that some of the kids might not have got, which I thought was quite fun. You know, they didn't have that. But I just always felt like Mr. Fantastic just was so boring. And the whole thing with him at the front with the dance just felt so forced. But then I always remember Mr. Fantastic as being a bit of a dork, a bit of a he's never really the most charismatic superhero. But then that's, again, I'm thinking back to the animated series, the movies we've seen of him. He's never really been a great character, and in the comics, I never really got that from him either.
No, you're really supposed to pay attention to the Thing in Human Torch, and so they got that aspect right. It does make me look forward to What If, because I want to see if they'll have Chris Evans, be the Human Torch in that. I think would be cool.
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to leave Fantastic Four for a while till they get it right. I don't think they want to mess about with it too much yet. But
but I feel like What If would be the perfect way where they could do it without introducing everything. But no, especially since they already faked everybody out with that 4. That wound up being for Captain America 4. That already set some people into a tizzy. So
it's definitely, to me, I feel like this is one of those kind of movies. It's easy to watch. It's an easy popcorn flick. It's not great. It's not amazing, but it's doable. But it's of a different era. This is like, I would say this was like the final, one of the final ones of. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, it took 20th Century another 10 years before they eventually kind of lost it, but it again was just showing why Marvel fans were getting more and more frustrated with what Fox were trying to do with the Marvel characters, because they didn't get them, and the world was moving on from origin stories, and I think, I mean, we obviously got Shang-Chi coming up in September with an origin story, but you can only, I don't know. It's just, I think, you've got to do it in a different kind of way. And this movie definitely didn't do it. And again, Galactus is such a great villain. I mean, I've seen him in some great comic books and some great video games. And this movie just did not put across just how bad he was.
Yeah. It feels like they wasted the potential they had with both the Galactus and the Silver Surfer. It's a sequel. That's all I can say. If you want to do like a bad, a bad superhero flick night, it's one of those that you can put on and watch it, recognize how bad it is, but still enjoy yourself. It's kind of like got that Batman Forever or Superman 3 feel on that.
See, Superman 3 is always up there for me, because I must have seen that movie about 1,000 times. So
Superman 4.
Superman 4. Yeah, now Superman 4. Now we're in a different category. But Superman. Yeah, it's definitely in that category. But if you could give this one a score out of 5, what would you give it?
A 1.5.
1.5. Yeah.
It's not great, but I can watch it.
Yeah, I was gonna go for 2. It's definitely definitely a low quality Marvel movie, but we'd love to know what you think of it. What would you give it? Score out of 5. Love to hear your thoughts. Remember as well, you can go check us out over at What's On at DisneyPlus.com. You can like, follow, and subscribe on all the different social medias. You can also follow us on our main podcast feed as well, where we do weekly news and reviews, and then we do a weekly episode every week of doing retro reviews, which you find on this own separate feed. And as I said, Patreon and YouTube channel members get to vote and suggest what movies we watch. And on that note, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you guys soon. Laters.